There are people who swear they've seen ghosts, shadows moving where nothing should be, a presence felt without reason, a flicker of something watching from the corner of the room. But I don't think ghosts are the dead. I don't think they're souls trapped between worlds or spirits that never found their way home. I think ghosts are us. Other versions of us, other versions of our lives across infinite parallel realities. Other timelines brushing close enough that the edges start to blur. Maybe the figures we think we see aren't strangers at all. Maybe they're the selves we became in lives that unfolded differently. The version of you who stayed, the version who left, the version who loved someone you've never met, the version who lost something you never had. And sometimes, when the veil thins just enough, it isn't the ghost you're sensing, it's the memory they're carrying, a sadness that isn't yours, a nostalgia for a place you've never been, a flash of recognition in a stranger's face, a moment that feels lived even though it never happened here. But maybe it did, just not in this version of your life. This is Z and Cruz, and this week's episode is called The Soulmates of Time. Some hauntings aren't appearances, they're perspectives, a glimpse of the world through the eyes of another you, a different heartbeat, a different choice, a different timeline echoing through your own, like light bleeding under a cracked door. What if the chill down your spine isn't fear, but memory leaking in from a life your soul remembers, even if your mind doesn't? What if the ghosts around us aren't trying to scare us? They are just trying to show us that we exist in more places than one. There are people who move through the world with a heaviness they can't explain, a sadness too old for their age, memories without a past, longing without a reason. These are the haunted ones, not by spirits, but by themselves. Souls stretched thin across realities, feeling the weight of several lives at once. They wake up tired, not from anything they've done physically, but from everything they're connected to in the quantum universe. They grieve losses this version of them never lived. They miss people their hands have never touched. They feel nostalgia for a timeline that doesn't belong to their body. They aren't dramatic, they aren't fragile. They're overloaded, remembering too much life in not enough space. Sometimes the grief belongs to another version of them, a version who didn't survive something this one never faced. Sometimes the love belongs to a life where the relationship lasted. Sometimes the fear belongs to a moment that shattered someone they used to be in another world. They're not imagining it. They're remembering. They're feeling the loss, the love, the break, and it tears them apart in ways they cannot begin to comprehend. Emotions that overload them from outside this existence. There's a theory I've carried quietly for years, one I rarely say out loud because it sounds too strange, too impossible, too close to the parts of me I don't know how to explain. Some memories don't come from this timeline at all. Reality isn't a thread, it's a tangle, a braid, 1,000 possibilities all unfolding at once. And sometimes when the walls thin, things leak through. A feeling, a sadness, a dream that feels like a warning, a conversation that never happened here, that lingers like déjà vu. Not hallucination, not imagination, just memory from a life you don't remember living, or never lived at all. Your soul isn't many bodies living separate lives. It's one consciousness spread thin across realities like light refracted through glass. And sometimes the light bends just right and two versions of you touch for a moment, or many at once, and you feel it. Some people move through life with no idea why everything feels heavier for them than it does for everyone else. Why they're the ones who can't let go. Why songs hit them harder. why memories linger longer, and the silence feels louder, why love feels bigger and loss feels permanent and inevitable. It's easy for the world to say you're just sensitive, as if sensitivity is a flaw, something that needs to be softened, corrected, quieted. But sensitivity isn't weakness, it's exposure. When you live in more than one reality at once, you lose the luxury of numbness. You don't get the simple version of emotion, you get the layered one, the multiversal one, the version packed with the weight of 100 possible stories, and it changes how you relate to everything, to silence, to touch, to disappointment, to hope, to everyone around you. Some days you feel too human, other days not human enough. But here's the truth no one tells you. You're not too much. You're just carrying more realities than other people. And with it, more pain, more sorrow, more sadness. Your soul didn't learn how to close the door all the way. There's another strange thing that happens to people who live across realities. They recognize things they were never taught and have never actually seen or heard or experienced firsthand. A smell that brings them to tears, a face that feels familiar, a place they swear they've stood before, a warning in their guts that has no origin in this life, a moment that feels predestined, even though they don't believe in fate. These aren't coincidences, they're alignments. Moments when something in this world accidentally syncs up with something from one of your other lives. It's why certain people make you feel safe for no logical reason, why you're protective of things you've never lost here, why you feel grief over choices you didn't make. It's not insanity, as the world tries to paint it. It's recognition. Your soul remembering what your mind has never lived. That is the quiet superpower of those who exist between worlds. Existing in broken times and realities carries a loneliness most people will never understand. How do you explain to someone who's only ever lived one life what it feels like to mourn 5 futures at once? How do you describe waking up with sadness from something that didn't happen here? How do you tell someone you feel like a stranger in your own timeline, and that you no longer recognize their face? People don't talk about this kind of loneliness, the quiet displacement of existing in too many versions of yourself. And it only continues to compound, more and more realities bleeding through every day. The world expects you to have one story, one self, one emotional truth. But some people are made of multitudes, whole universes inside them, whole timelines folded into the shape of a single human life. And they spend their days trying to act normal in a world that only speaks one language of reality. Most of the time, they just end up feeling out of place and broken and alone. Not because they're actually broken, but because they're remembering too much all at once. Because they're haunted not by spirits, but by possibility. And that kind of haunting can make even the brightest souls feel like they're walking alone, even in the crowded room of life. We've given names to these remembered moments for millennia. Ghosts, angels, demons, déjà vu, visions, visitors, mediums. Or how about this one, the mentally ill? Maybe none of it is supernatural, or easy to shove into a box labelled crazy. It could be just dimensional noise, the sound of lives brushing against each other in the dark. Maybe angels are the versions of us who healed, and demons are the versions of us who didn't. Perhaps UFOs are silhouettes of parallel lives moving with different physics. Maybe miracles are fractures, 2 realities sliding across each other for half a second, to let the impossible drift into the possible. Maybe the universe isn't hiding anything. Maybe it's just being honest for a change. There are moments that hit too hard, feel too deep, cut too suddenly, and we don't know why. Moments where the grief feels ancient, where the sadness feels inherited, where the panic feels rehearsed. These aren't weaknesses. They're collisions that all of us feel at some point in our lives. Realities slamming together and leaving echoes in the body. Some heartbreaks happen in every reality. Some choices ripple everywhere at once. Some moments scar every version of you. This is why people break without knowing why, cry without a reason, grieve without a story. They're remembering so much history from too many selves. And for all the echoes we carry, for all the memories that aren't ours, for all the versions of ourselves we can't explain, there is one constant the universe gets right. One soul that never changes in any version of our life. Most people call it a soulmate, as if it's destiny or magic or a promise written in the stars. But I don't think it's destiny at all. I think it's physics. In every timeline where we exist, there is one person whose essence never shifts. One presence that aligns across every choice, every fracture, every version. We don't find them, we remember them. Our chest recognizes them before our mind can make sense of it. Our soul leans toward them like gravity, like instinct, like something older than this lifetime pulling you back, or an echo from the future pulling you forward. Because in every universe, we already knew them. A soulmate isn't fate, it's convergence. It's the moment every version of us finally remembers the same person in the same breath. And when that happens, all you can do is breathe, smile, and realize you finally made it home. Please check your favorite bookstores worldwide for my novel, The Zephyros Chronicles Rebirth. The highly anticipated sequel, Cantera, arrives this February. This is Cruz reminding you to stay close to the echo. Bye for now.